On the Waterfront by Bud Schulberg. Read by William Hootkins. Across the Hudson River from the grubby harbor town of Bohegan, little squares of light were coming on all over the seaport metropolis. The massive verticals of the skyline were softening into a continuous range of man-made mountains. Soon the dusk would darken into night. Along one of the Bohegan docks, a Portuguese freighter was working under lights, the winches humming and growling, where the longshoremen, 50- and 60-year-old Irishmen and Italians, were proudly able to keep up with the younger men, the 30-year-olds out of World War II. Here in Bohegan, when they weren't short-ganged, they worked in teams of 22, 8 on the hold, 8 on the dock, 4 on the deck, along with a couple of high-low drivers, and they knew each other's rhythms. They worked at a regular, easy, knowing pace, making the most dangerous work in America look safe and casual. Loading and unloading is an art and a fever. The dock boss is on you all the time. Unload, load, and turn her around. The faster she puts a cargo down and picks up another, well, that's where the money is. Do a 3-day job in 2, and there's your profit. Legitimate profit, that is. Oh, there's plenty of the other kind, for the mob who's got the local and the Bohegan piers in its pocket. More ways to skin this fat cat than you would ever dream. You take $16 billion worth of cargo moving in and out all over the harbor every year, and if the boys siphon off maybe 60 millions of it in pilferage, shakedowns, kickbacks, bribes, short gangs, numbers, trumped-up loading fees, and a dozen other smart operations, why, who cares? To shipping companies? Not so you could notice it. The longshoremen? Most of them are happy, or anyway willing, just to keep working. The city fathers? That's a joke on the waterfront. The people, the public, you and me, all we do is pay the tab. The extra 6 or 7% passed on to the consumer because the greatest harbor of the greatest city of the greatest country in the world is run like a private grab bag. At the river's edge on the Bohegan side, where the ancient Hudson American piers extended 300 yards into the great harbor, the water was brackish and thinly carpeted with bits of splintered wood, half-capsized beer bottles, oil slick, dead fish, and an occasional contraceptive. Midstream the river was deep and magnificent, but here at the edge it was a watery dump. On water-worn stilts over the shallow water was a 2-room boathouse that had belonged to the Bohegan Yacht Club in some distant, more elegant past. Now, the Bohegan Yacht Club was inhabited by sportsmen of another stripe. A sign over the door read, Longshoremen's Local 447. Everyone knew what 447 stood for in Bohegan. Johnnie Friendly. And everyone knew what Johnnie Friendly stood for. Johnnie Friendly was president of the local, and vice president, secretary, treasurer, and delegate, for that matter, although he had some of his boys filling those slots. More than that, he was a vice president of the Longshoremen's District Council. More than that, he was the way you got and kept a job in this section of the waterfront, the only way, except for some special favor guys sent down from the mayor's office. Johnnie Friendly had the build of a 200-year-old oak cut off a few inches short of 6 feet. He had the kind of build the tough ones have when they've made a bundle or two and liked their Heineken beers and the $5 steaks garnished with fat fried onions and oversized baked potatoes. There was a coating of fat over Johnny's muscles that didn't conceal their existence or the potential violence they represented. He had a way of squeezing your shoulder while he talked to you, if he liked you. He was always good for 50s and C notes peeled off the fat roll, and a pat on the back and a gravelly voice, that's all right, I understand, forget it. A real big man around Bohegan, Johnnie Friendly. A 100% when he's for you, 0 when he's not. Right now, Johnnie Friendly's emotional state was pushing 0. His patience was all used up.
That Doyle kid, that fresh-nosed little son of a bitchin' Doyle kid, troublemaker. 2 years in the Navy, and he comes out a regular sea lawyer. The Constitution of the local calls for bi-monthly meetings. How do you like that? In the small print, he finds bi-monthly. The kid has the nerve to actually go read the Constitution. Only about 50 showed up, 50 out of a possible 1,500, and half of them was ours. We all got elected for 4 more years. This Joey Doyle put up a squawk, and Truck had to take him outside and quiet him down. And then comes the clincher. The governor's got a bunch of stiffs he calls the State Crime Commission. Now they get headlines about investigating waterfront crime. Well, of course, it's for laughs. Who's gonna go blabbing to that bunch of striped pant bums? Only we start hearing things about Joey Doyle. He's been seen going in and out of the courthouse, where they sit around jacking off or whatever they do. I'm patient. Before I move Joey out of my way with muscle, I look to con him out of my way with some soft soap. For that, I've got Charlie Malloy. Charlie ain't called the gent for nothing. He's got a lot better education than the rest of us got. Charlie's got brains to burn. Would have been a hell of a lawyer. He could talk up a breeze like, that matter to which you have reference to which, and stuff like that. So I sent my troubleshooter to my troublemaker. Charlie talks sense. But when Charlie wastes his best arguments and comes back with no dice, and the scuttlebutt has the Doyle punk blowing his nose for the Crime Commission, what am I supposed to do? Hang a medal on him? I work too hard for what I got to frig around with a cheese eater. Know what I mean?
So Johnny and Charlie, a waterfront idea of suavity and culture, worked up a little plan. Its virtue lay in its simplicity. No telltale firearms, not even the usual splash in the river. In the office on the creaky, floating dock on the river's edge, Johnny went over the plans with Charlie and Sonny and Specs.
Okay, Matus, he said to Charlie, go get the kid brother. Put him to work.
Matus was Johnny's name for anybody he liked. You were in pretty good shape if he called you Matus. But if he called you Schlagoom, then you better look out. Johnny followed Charlie up the gangplank to the shore with his arm on his shoulder.
You got enough padding in there for a football team,
he said to Charlie approvingly. Charlie wore a camel's hair that was really a beaut. It looked like it must have come off a very upper-class camel.
Okay, Matus, Johnny said again. I'll be over at the joint.
That was the Friendly Bar, a little farther up River Street. Johnny's brother-in-law, Leo, ran it for him. There was as much business done there as in the union office itself. The horseplay and the numbers and a lot of the kickback and, of course, the loan sharking, that all went on in the bar. The back room was Johnny's second home. It was a cool autumn evening, and Charlie liked the way the odds and ends of laundry fluttered on the lines. The poverty of the waterfront hung out for all to see. Suckers, Charlie thought. He reached a narrow 4-story building that had been thrown up 60 years earlier in a hasty effort to accommodate the influx when the new piers were built and big-time shipping came to Bohegan. It was growing darker, but a lot of kids were hollering up a stickball game in the street. On the stoop, some of the older ones were idly watching. Old Man Doyle was there, with a can of beer in his hand, and with him was Runty Nolan, a jockey-sized little gnome of a man barely 5 feet tall, with a face that had been hammered out of its original cast for 30 years of talking back. Not a young, up-to-date, Navy-wise, modern trade union-minded oppositionist like Joey Doyle, but an incorrigible gadfly, a born needler, a party of one who fought Johnnie Friendly by laughing at him.